Coming up this week on Sporting Journal Radio.
It's a smaller reel, so it's geared towards bass.
Garden Island area right now has just been hotter than 2 sacks of potatoes.
However, it's very hard for conservation officers or other law enforcement to issue those tickets.
I fish, I hunt, and always will. Broadcasting from the Prairie Sportsman Studios. Presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. We're not just a radio show anymore.
Heck yeah.
This is Sporting Journal Radio.
That's right. Welcome to the show. I'm Bret Amundson. That's Dan Amundson right over there. Dan, how you doing?
Well, I kind of wish we were doing a live show because it'd be fun to be doing a storm report. We might all die here in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, if the show all of a sudden ends, it's because we're getting smashed by a severe thunderstorm right now. David Eckhardt's right over there. David, I know you're in a hurry to get this done so you can get your truck away from the potential hail that may be coming. But it's that time of year, man. It's the beginning of the summer season, essentially. We've got some hot temperatures in the forecast, some storms in the forecast. And also some trips. We're going to be heading up to Lake of the Woods, which we're really excited about. So Joe Henry's going to give us a fishing report. And then we're going to talk about Keep It Clean, where it originated up at Lake of the Woods, but now it's spread to other places in Minnesota and beyond. We'll talk to Mike Hirst. He's a research conservationist in Lake of the Woods County. Why is Keep It Clean important? And there's new legislation. Now it's law that you have to clean up after yourself when you're on the ice fishing. We'll explain what that means, what it's going to look like. All coming up, and we're going to do, we went bass fishing, Dan's favorite. We fished with the MG12, the new Kastking Elite reel. It's a really nice reel. We're going to give you a review on what we thought about that reel coming up in a little bit. And then we had, we caught some smallmouth, and we've got a pretty cool video to show you of two different smallmouth kind of interacting. Anyway, we'll show it to you. I'm trying to tease it without telling people what it is so that they want to watch it. Did that explain it very well?
Just stay tuned.
Who are the sponsors this week?
This week, we didn't update this video, but it's still OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. Live Target, match the hatch with Live Target at livetargetlures.com. Lake of the Woods Tourism. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital. Plan a trip for this summer at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. Haybell Heights Campground and Resort. Book a trip to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Learn more at haybellheights.com. Al Claire Audio. Get ready for hunting season. Save your hearing in the field with Al Claire. Learn more at alclaireoutdoors.com. Ottertail Lakes Country. Find your inner otter this summer at ottertaillakescountry.com. And Prairie Sportsman, the new season. Again, we got to change this, but the new season's done. Just find episodes on YouTube and the prairiesportsman.org. We'll just direct people there for now.
The whole season is there. And there are new seasons, depending on which PBS station you're watching the show on. There are still new episodes of the season coming out all around the region right now on your local PBS station. Well, Dan, we spent some time up in Hayward, Wisconsin last week. David, you missed out. It was a good time. We need to get you into a glow, David.
Yeah.
We need to get you into it.
It's $100. It's easy. Anybody in the outdoor world, it's $100 to join as a media member. Do it.
Yeah, you should. Mika moved my camera a little bit, I noticed.
I think it was just your light.
It was the light, yeah. Oh. Thanks, Mika.
So $100 to join a glow. If you're in the outdoor world, communicating at all, whether you're a podcaster, radio show host, TV host, or maybe you're a YouTuber. Maybe you got a YouTube channel, and that's what you want to do. You want to be the next YouTube fishing star, hunting star. Well, the glow is going to help you do that because it's going to introduce you to the people that have been doing it. It's going to introduce you to the people that are behind all the brands that you want to use and get sponsored by. So if you want to learn how to communicate in the outdoor world and make it a job, join a glow today. And follow, if you want to see an example of some of the work, go to the outdoorfeed.org and you can see the type of work that the communicators within a glow are doing. It's updated every day. And then there's information about these mini media camps, like the one we just did in Hayward, and then the annual conference as well, which is in Bemidji this year. So that might be a great time if you want to just walk around, shake hands with people that are in the industry. We'll be there, a bunch of other brands and people, some recognizable names in the fishing industry and the hunting industry will be there as well too. So it's pretty affordable way to break into the outdoor world.
That's also only $100, and that includes 3 meals a day and some drinks if you want some soda pops. And you just got to find a place to stay. You can stay at the hotel, but it's $100 for 5 days of food and drink and meeting all these people.
Networking.
Yeah.
It's worth it. And if you're from Bemidji, like if you're listening to this in Bemidji right now, you can stay at home. Pay $100, come get 3 meals and
a day.
have a beer with us and meet some cool people, learn about outdoor communication. So aglowOutdoors.com is also a website where you can find out more information, or go to the outdoorfeed.org, and all the stuff is listed there too as well. And in throughout the year, you may be able to go on some of these smaller media camps. We've been on 3 of them this year. We went to Lake of the Woods for an ice fishing trip. We went to the Niagara River, which was unreal, to fish for lake trout and steelhead out there. And then we just got done fishing in Hayward on the Chippewa flowage. We fished for panfish, bass. And Dan, I remember you thought you had a crappie. We were slip bobber fishing with leeches and Al's goldfish, and all of a sudden you're like, it's a walleye.
You guys thought I was crappie fishing? No.
Yeah.
I was secretly walleye fishing. None of us just knew it.
Yeah, we all were. So we caught some walleyes. It was a lot of fun, but then we got to go tour the area a little bit. We went to a bunch of different resorts every day, and just some of the history around some of those resorts is really neat. We got to go to the Hall of Fame. You probably heard us talk about this last week on the show, so I won't go into it more than other than the fact that we got a brand new video showing you all of this stuff that's probably on the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel. When do we want to put it out? Sunday? It might be on probably in a couple of days. Watch for it on the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel, and you'll get to see how we were fishing and see what a tour of the Syncroy Rod Factory might look like. And it's something that you can do too. So if you want to see it before you try it, you can check it out on the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that. And then Dan, you got a video coming there as well too.
Yep. Oh, that's a good bit. That's better fish. That's better fish. That's better fish. Lake Winnipegosh, which is a big Winnie. Here we are. You can buy 1 spool. There's the fish. Today, it's about catching fish. So that's what we're going to do, and I'll show you how we do it.
Funky.
Do you like that transition?
That was very nice.
Yep.
Very nice. I like the music too.
Thanks.
Kind of groovy.
Made it myself.
So check out Fish Hunt Forever on YouTube. We've actually got a lot of new videos on there. Just put up a new one for Horicon and what it's like in the spring on the marsh, the legendary Cattail Marsh in southeast Wisconsin. It's such a cool place. We're going back in the fall, but if you want to see what it's like there in the spring, there are some birding opportunities, but I was really excited about seeing all the waterfowl that were out there, and just tons of goslings. They were like a week ahead of us, around maybe 2 weeks ahead of us around here. Tons of goslings out. So it was just really neat to see how that place is managed federally and by the state. And then there's a volunteer visitor center there too. Watch that video right now in the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel. All right, we did some bass fishing the other day. Dan, you had a chance to break out the new MG12 from Kastking. What did you think?
Well, so I don't get to use a baitcaster as much as I used to, maybe, but I hadn't really ever heard of Kastking much until recently. You know, we got the capstan and the Kastking Kong to do some sturgeon fishing with. Otherwise, I didn't really know anything about this company, and they sent this baitcaster, and they're like, "Hey, try to use it." And you're like, "Well, okay, we walleye fish, we'll figure it out." And so we went through it. The first time I casted through this thing.
Sure.
It's like butter. I couldn't believe it. It's small. It's light. What did you say? It's like 4.8 ounces or something?
Yeah, it's ridiculously small.
Less than 5 ounces.
Yeah, I can't believe it. And the thing just, it's like it's lubed up with butter when you cast. I was thoroughly impressed with it. And we caught some smallmouth, and one of them did. These smallies are all on beds, and so they must be trying to protect these beds. And so I was pulling this one in on this jerkbait, and if you're watching this, you can see all of a sudden there's a second one tries to eat the jerkbait out of the other one's mouth. It's pretty wicked, but yeah, pretty impressed. If you like, it's a smaller reel, so it's geared towards bass. It's I think you could throw some smaller baits with it, but I threw some into some trees because I didn't expect it to cast as far as it did, so I threw some jerkbaits into some trees. Yeah, I was pretty impressed. But David, did you use a Kastking when you were crappie fishing this weekend?
Did not, no.
Well, what the heck? What's wrong with you?
I honestly don't even know what reel it was. It's a small little ultralight rod and little Berkeley rod.
No, but you were boat fishing, I hear.
I was.
Or were
kind
you
of.
Were you dock fishing?
I was dock fishing, but my boat was in the way, so I just stood my boat.
Gas prices are so high these days.
That's right. But I did try and go out, 50 feet and then cast back, into where I'd been catching them, and
Did you run out of gas?
I caught like 2.
Oh.
So I'm like, this isn't working. And there's a lot of weeds, so I think from where I was casting out of my boat, I could get right to the edge of the weed line. And so I was like, that was working way better. So I just went and tied my boat back up, kept fishing out of the back of it, tied to the dock.
Well, it's hilarious, but I will say I've done it before too.
Yeah.
And,
Well, where were we going? Oh, we were on our way to Hayward. We were
Yeah.
making fun of a guy for doing that. He was just sitting in his boat, and we were all joking that he's just because he had his case of beer there.
it was probably David. We probably
It could have been.
You were in Wisconsin?
No.
Oh, interesting.
All right.
Made fun of that guy for doing it. Now we're applauding you.
Yep.
David. Just because it's you. If it was anyone else, we'd make fun of you.
Well, especially when I was a kid, I remember going to the cabin and you'd fish off the dock because either too young to go out in the boat or whatever, but just sit in the back of the boat tied up to the dock and catch fish. And we used to catch crappies off the dock like that. It was a lot of fun. So, all right. Well, we've got Mike Hirst coming up. We're going to talk about Keep It Clean and how important this program is. And in fact, there's new legislation that has spawned because of the Keep It Clean program that is now going to keep people accountable when it comes to ice fishing and cleaning up after yourself. We'll explain on the way. And we'll get a fishing report from Joe Henry when we come back. Kodiak, a North American waterfowl film, is coming to the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel.
Well, I've been a sea duck hunter for about 30 seconds, and I've already got one that's probably going to go on the wall, so this is the coolest duck hunt I've ever been on.
Presented by Boss Shot Shells, with support from Sitka and Beretta, and additional support from Eau Claire Outdoors, High Prairie Animal Arts, and the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Riders. Watch Kodiak on the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel. Devil's Lake is legendary, and this summer has been legendary for walleyes. Don't miss out. Call Haybale Heights Campground and Resort today to book one of their modern cabins on East Bay. The cabins are furnished with a full bathroom, kitchen, and all the amenities like high-speed internet, and are clean following CDC guidelines. Staying at Haybale Heights gives you full access to a private boat launch, fish cleaning station, and beach area. Learn more at haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. Plan your trip to legendary Devil's Lake today. All right, now we're going to head up to Lake of the Woods to check in with Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, how you doing?
Brett, how you doing, buddy?
Not bad, not bad. We were gone all last week. We missed you on the show, of course, but we were hanging out with all of your friends and our friends from Aglow and had a good time. Had some campfire songs from Tim Lesmeister, of course, and got to try out some different rods from St. Croix and some different lures, Al's Goldfish, and hang out with Mark Smith and Josh Lance. It was a pretty good time over there, Joe. We missed you over there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You know what? Hanging out with a lot of Glow professionals, all good friends of ours, all really, really good people. Question I have, how many years have we been doing this show? I think around 10 years. And I don't know, have we ever missed a week?
Yeah, it's been very few. Very few.
It has.
So you should have tried harder to be on it, Joe. That's all I'm saying.
It felt odd, didn't it? Something was felt off last week.
Well, I wondered why our ratings were down. Now I know. Know. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to make up for it. We're going to be up at Lake of the Woods. So next week our show is going to be all about Lake of the Woods here on Sporting Journal Radio.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, you're going up. I think you're going up with your dad and some of his buddies up to Arneson's Rocky Point, aren't you?
We're going to spend a couple of days at the south end of the lake and then go up to the angle for a couple of days.
That sounds awesome. You guys are going to have a great time. Fish are biting, I can promise you that. Just put the fishing report out, and boy, I tell you that, the areas you're going to over by Twin Islands right now, the fish are starting to slide off onto some structure out into the mud. And then when you get up to the angle, boy, I tell you that Garden Island area right now has just been hotter than 2 sacks of potatoes. And of course, the Flag Island Flats. I shouldn't say that on the air, but Flag Island Flats, hint, hint. Check that spot out. I shot a TV show last year with Larry Smith, and there is probably 10 boats in that Flag Island Flats, which is an area between the western side of Flag Island and the mainland. That's only about 7 feet of water, but the water's kind of rolling through there. There's current. It's bad ice in the winter. You don't go through there in the winter. But this time of year, there's bait and stuff in there, and I'll tell you what, we just anchored up or spot locked actually and jigged and caught all the nice walleyes we wanted. And they were nice eaters. And then we ended up trolling, and there it is. But then we ended up trolling some big cranks through there, knowing that the bigger pike were probably in there eating the walleyes. And it was funny, we were pulling those cranks and we catch walleye, and all of a sudden, bang, a small pike, bang, a decent pike, bang. I got a pike that we didn't measure it, but I know it was 45 inches plus. And the funny thing was, we didn't have a net because we forgot the net because we carried walleyes into the fish cleaning shack the night before with the net. Didn't get it out of the fish.
I did that the other day.
Grabbed that pike and got it in, and then I had to tire that sucker out. Well, I tell you what, that thing ran, you guys. I mean, it was powerful, just powerful.
Those big pike are a lot of fun. We're excited about that. We've only fished in the open water up at the angle a couple of times, so kind of looking forward to doing some exploring. We've got Ontario licenses already for another trip planned, so we might go across the border and fish in the Ontario side of things just a little bit. I've never done that up there before.
Oh, you'll have a blast. It's so cool up there. I got to tell you, you just mentioned exploring, and there's a guy up there by the name of Joe Lauren. And if you recognize that name, Brett, Joe Lauren's the guy that created that Lake of the Woods exploring app where, he made this app for $20. You can get an app, and it talks all about the northern part of Lake of the Woods. It's everything from Garden Island north pretty much, but I mean everything from Cheerio Beach to the abandoned gold mines, abandoned POW camps from World War II, interior waterfalls, interior lakes, Fort St. Charles, Massacre Island, lithographs and petroglyphs that show markings from hundreds and hundreds of years ago on the rock walls in some areas of the lake. I mean, it's 14,552 islands, and most people go to the Northwest Angle because of its world-class fishing, and I totally get why, because you're going to experience that. But I'll tell you what, there is so much to explore there. I got a feeling his new business some people will go up just for that, just to go exploring for a couple of days. And then I think some people will add a day onto their fishing trip and say, hey, it's just for a day. Let's go exploring. We've always talked about it. And he's a historian. I mean, it's funny. His wife is the angler, and he's an explorer. So when they go out together, they got to do 50-50. But if you get a chance, that area is just incredibly beautiful.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that, and I'm excited to fish the lake. The big Traverse there too, because and my dad said, "Hey, I know you're going to talk to Joe Henry this week. Make sure you get a fishing report for us." So
yeah,
he wants to know, and Dan and I were kind of thinking about this, what kind of tactics we're going to be using, and maybe jigging is the way to go when we get up there. You think, Joe?
I think two things. I think jigging is a way to go. But I will tell you, people that are trying spinners are already catching some fish on spinners. And if you need to cover some water, you're going to have a couple of boats up there. So you might want to try a little bit of both if you're not getting them jigging, just to cover water. But I can tell you they've been getting some nice fish off at Twin Islands. I'll tell you what, there was a Lund boat, a small Lund boat that was trolling from the Arnesons each evening, back and forth. They weren't going back to that same spot night two because of their health. It was a nice calm night out. They were catching fish, and there's so many spots to fish around there that get untouched because there's so much structure. There's little nooks and crannies along the shoreline. If you zoom in like a Lake Master or an Navionics map, you zoom a map in. There's so many areas along shore to fish. You get that mud that comes off of the different rock. I mean, look at those spots. They've been getting a lot of fish off at Twin Islands. That could still be good. And then, of course, as those fish start roaming out a little bit, you get all those reefs out there, Arnesons, Paul, Mark, Archies, Lems, I mean, go on and on. And that section of the lake has just about everything, and it's cool. Long Point is a great place to fish. That's where you guys know the guy named Kurt Quinnell. That's where Kurt Quinnell goes out of, and he fishes Long Point all the time. He'll roam, but he goes off of Long Point a lot and does just fine. So, yeah, you guys, it's just a matter of finding those fish. I would encourage you to use your electronics. I know you got some good electronics now, and just go fishing, man. You'll find some fish.
Well, we're kind of excited to bring the live scope up there. This will be our first year bringing a live scope up and seeing what effect that might have on our ability to find some fish. And then the one thing I'm not looking forward to, though, Joe, is the forecast, at least for down here. I haven't looked for the forecast for up there yet, but they're talking about 90-degree weather for the next week or so from the time of this recording anyway. So it's going to be hot. And every time I think about that, I think about you doing a report on the show a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago it was. You were up there. You might have been filming with Larry again, but you guys were fishing in real shallow water, middle of the day, and it was 90 degrees out, and you were catching walleyes.
Oh, man. And you know what? With that stained water, if there is bait up shallow, and, bait can be a hatch of shiners. Bait can be crayfish up in the rocks. There's a number of things you can certainly do. And I've done that a number of times on Lake of the Woods. In fact, I'll give you a shallow spot over in that section of the lake that you can give a shot to. And I would typically pull spinners over that spot. But you got to be careful because, when you go to those skinny areas, you got to know what you're getting into. The one spot I'm going to give you, you can hit your boat. And if you're going slow, it's not going to be big deal. But, there's a couple areas where on my GPS, what I do is if I start getting really close up into that 4 feet of water where it goes from four to 3 to 2, like right now, you're like right on that rock. What I do is I back off slowly and I just slide my cursor up and put a skull and crossbones on that spot. And over time, I can put enough skull and crossbones that I can, if I want to do something in 4 feet of water right in that edge, I can be a little bit more dialed in. And this is what I'm using my trolling motor usually, and not going fast at all. It'd be one of those things where if I touched a rock, it would be a bump, but it wouldn't be catastrophic. And I think anywhere you go, you just have to know the lake. There's not a lot of areas in the south end that you can hit, but there's a few areas closer to shore in that neck of the woods, in that kind of that southwest corner by Long Point and Rocky Point that you can hit if you get too close to shore. You just have to zoom your chip in. Your chip will tell you, but you just got to zoom that baby in.
All right, Joe. Well, we're looking forward to getting up there next week. Next week, you're going to be on the show. We'll talk more about the Northwest Angle and some more history and spots that we can fish and how we should fish up there. But we got to take a break, Joe. But when we come back, we're going to have Mike Hirst on to talk about the Keep It Clean program and some of that new legislation that just passed. So some good news for the program and also a little more incentive for people to clean up after themselves when they're out there on the lake in the wintertime. But, Joe, if people want to plan a summer trip up to Lake of the Woods, what should they do?
You know what? Check out our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Northern Minnesota's Walleye Factory is a year-round world-class fishing destination. The perfect getaway this summer is just a short drive to Lake of the Woods. Fish Big Traverse Bay, the Rainy River, or visit the unique Northwest Angle. To catch big fish, you have to go where the big fish are. Plan your trip to Lake of the Woods at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. That's lakeofthewoodsmn.com. 852 million acres of public land, 147 million private properties, all in the palm of your hand. The #1 hunting GPS app just got better. With hundreds of custom map layers, 3D and topographic maps, you can easily scout on the road or at home before you go. And now you can get important weather details, CWD detection, and even know what crops have been planted where. Get the most trusted hunting GPS app ever made. OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. This is Sporting Journal Radio. I'm Bret Amundson. Thanks for tuning in on the network. By demand, sportingjournalradio.com, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you very much. Dan Amundson and David Eckhardt with us as well, too. And, a while back in April, we had our big old fishing tournament up on the Rainy River, the SJR 500. It was a good time. We celebrated. It was the second annual celebration of our 500th show. So now it's just going to become an annual thing. We went up and celebrated our 500th show, had a party, did a fishing tournament on the Fish Donkey app, and now we're going to do it every year. Well, we decided we upped the entry fee a little bit. We did bigger paybacks, and then we decided that it's important for us to give back to the resource as well. So we're donating a portion of the proceeds to the Keep It Clean program. And to tell us more about the Keep It Clean program, we got Mike Hirst with us right now. Mike is a research conservationist in Lake of the Woods County at the Soil and Water Conservation District. Mike, how you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for joining us. We want to have you on for a couple of reasons because we want to present you with some money. We should have done a big check. Dan, could you try to draw us up a big check real quick?
Give me... David, come over here and direct, and I'll write one up. Or you write one up.
Give me a Sharpie and a big
hang on.
cardboard.
Tap dance.
So we want to present you with some money for the program as well, but we want to talk a little bit more about it, where it came from, why it's important, and then talk about this new legislation that just passed. There was so much obviously we had a big surplus, so it was a good time to spend some money on the outdoors in Minnesota. Thankfully they did. I think you can thank Minfish for a big part of that, but there was some language in there. There was a new, what would we call, new law or new regulation requiring you basically to clean up after yourself, which is good. Storing garbage and other waste on ice. So a person using a shelter, a motor vehicle, or any other conveyance on the ice of state waters may not deposit garbage, rubbish, cigarette filters, debris from fireworks, the body of a dead animal, litter, sewage, or other waste outside the shelter, motor vehicle, or conveyance unless the material is placed in a container. Basically, it's saying you got to clean up after yourself or else there is actually going to be a fine. And Mike, I'm surprised that this wasn't a law already.
Yeah, no, that's a very good comment. There are laws that you can't litter. However, it's very hard for conservation officers or other law enforcement to issue those tickets unless they catch somebody basically in the act of driving away from the garbage and them admitting that, we're not going to pick it up. So we found out that, hey, if we could just educate folks and make sure that they don't leave trash on the ice, that will take care of a large portion, if not, most of the trash that's left on the ice, trash and human waste.
When did you decide that this needed to be taken up with the legislature?
It's something we thought of for a long time, and at Lake of the Woods, we've been working on this Keep It Clean campaign for over 10 years. It started back in 2012, and we have a committee of a good group of stakeholders, and a DNR conservation officer by the name of Corey Sura said, hey, if we could just change the rules to make this a ticketable offense, that would really increase the education. So really, I think it was about in July of last year, which is a really quick turnaround to actually get some legislation accomplished.
Did you expect it to pass right away?
In some ways, yes. Just because this program, everybody's been super supportive. From the DNR to MPCA to resorts to your organization and your donation. Thanks again for the exposure and the donation.
David has something for us.
It's not a big check, but it's
can't even read it.
Nope. It says money to keep it clean.
There's your fake check. That's right.
It's the best way to do.
That's great. I'll put it on the wall.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things where it's just gotten so much support, and it's been amazing. However, getting anything through the legislature, like first time through, that's tough. And like you said, big support from Minfish, our other partners on Red Lake and Mille Lacs. Robin Dwight, she's a real big proponent of this up on Upper Red Lake. So a lot of the stakeholders across the state really stepped up and went down and testified and had some great support from legislators willing to take that bill forward. So
this program started about 10 years ago. What were you seeing? What was happening that caused this to happen? Obviously, it's been an increase of angling pressure on Lake of the Woods in the winter. That's just been growing steadily since. I mean, really, it's funny. It doesn't go back that far when you think about it. Like the 80s, I've looked at some of the ads that resorts used in the 80s to promote ice fishing, and it was like, come fish a day on Lake of the Woods for $15. It's like, we're not talking about 100 years ago. I mean, this is the 1980s. It's not that long ago. And then it just has, with the advent of wheel houses, ice castle style houses, things like that, it's just allowed more and more people to get up there and fish in the winter comfortably. And that just in turn is going to increase trash on the ice.
For sure. Yeah. You can see, this graph here. You look back in the early 80s, there's about the same amount of people fishing in the wintertime as there was in the summer. And so the dotted line that you see here is angling pressure in the summer. And then the dark line is angling pressure in the winter. And this is just on Lake of the Woods. This is DNR Creel survey data. And so you can see it really took off, early 2000s. And that's about the advent of kind of that wheeled fish house, which just makes the amenities so much easier to get out and recreate on the lake.
Yeah, which, just to be clear, I love the wheelhouses. I'm a big fan.
Oh, yeah.
And I think everybody is for that reason, just the comfort and convenience of them.
Yeah, no, and they're a great amenity, and it gets people out on the lakes, which is great. But kind of with that ease or increase in technology, there's some of those unintended consequences that we've kind of run into on Lake of the Woods, which you can see kind of in some of the trash and other debris that's left on the ice. So, I mean, when people are recreating on the lake in portables, they're not bringing everything overnight to stay on the lake. They're going on and coming off. But if you're out there for a week or say a weekend, you have prepackaged food and all this stuff, so that generates trash. And so we just started seeing more of that in Lake of the Woods, and so that's why this committee was formed, and we implemented some things. I mean, obviously we do three main things: is education, and then we look for projects that will help anglers do the right things, as well as kind of provide some support logistically, as well as do some cleanup efforts in the spring.
And I know some of it is unintentional. There are some people just throwing their garbage on the ice thinking, it's just going to fall in the lake. Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to care. But a lot of it, I think, is unintentional. So a lot of the educational efforts I know have been, hey, have a plan. Have a plan for your garbage. Yeah. Bring bags. Joe Henry talks about it all the time. Bring bags that aren't white. So if you have them out on the ice, and it's never windy, and a day of blowing snow on Lake of the Woods ever. It's always perfect visibility when you're out there. So having trash bags that you can see, in the dark, or in on days when you're not just looking at a big expanse of white. Have a plan to get your garbage off the ice.
Yeah, for sure. We kind of have those 5 things that we're really looking at doing: is make it a plan, use colored trash bags, store the garbage off the ice, which is kind of something we were talking about doing. Now that will be the law. So you have to either have it in a receptacle or put it in the back of your pickup or store it somewhere. And then, before you leave, make sure you're checking, everything, make sure you're getting all the boards that you're using off, and just, remove everything before you go. So just being a good steward of the lake.
When does that law take effect?
So the law takes effect, I believe, this August, and then in January there's some other information coming out. So, but yeah, that's how I understand it as of right now. So right now our Keep It Clean committee, it's kind of the statewide committee. We're really working with DNR staff to make sure that we understand how they're going to enforce that, because we want to really get ahead of this and educate folks, because it will potentially affect the way they recreate on the lake. But overall, it's going to be a good thing for the lakes, and just something to get used to make sure that we're not leaving trash out there.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk a little bit more about Keep It Clean in just a second. We got to take a quick break. More with Mike Hirst from the Soil and Water Conservation District up at Lake of the Woods when we come back.
Live Target, the leader in Match the Hatch, is back with new lures that also match the action. Introducing the Live Craw. The Live Craw is irresistible to bass, walleye, and other freshwater species. FTech's winner, the Ultimate Frog, looks and acts just like a swimming frog. With an exposed ultra-point mustad hook and replaceable legs, the Ultimate Frog has 2 styles, 2 sizes, and 8 colors. And iCast and FTech's winner, the Live Shrimp, mimics a fleeing shrimp for saltwater anglers. Coming soon from Live Target.
Did you know there are more than 1,000 lakes in Otter Tail County?
Yep, and I'm gonna fish as many as I can. I'm an outdoorsy otter. Nothing beats a full day of fishing for me. The lakes of Otter Tail County give me plenty of options to lower my boat and snag the perfect catch. Not an outdoorsy otter? No problem. Otter Tail County has something for everyone. You just need to find your inner otter.
To find your inner otter, go to OttertailLakesCountry.com.
We're back. This is Sporting Journal Radio. I'm Bret Amundson. Thanks for tuning in with Dan Amundson and David Eckhardt. And our guest is Mike Hirst right now, research conservationist, Lake of the Woods County Soil and Water Conservation District, talking about the Keep It Clean effort up there. And Mike, what I've really liked to see is how it's expanded beyond just Lake of the Woods. I think that's where it got its start, but other lakes, Upper Red, Mille Lacs, some of the other big bodies of water in Minnesota have realized how important this effort is and just what the increase in ice pressure does to your water, what it can do to your water quality and what it does to the environment and your lake and your resource, how important it is to have a program like this. So were people approaching you to expand, or did you always think, hey, this is something that the rest of the state can do?
Well, when we first started, we knew it wasn't just a Lake of the Woods issue, but we wanted to do something, for locally on the Lake of the Woods. So that's where we started, and knowing anything we did would, help other parts of the state as well. And then about a couple of years ago, both Upper Red Lake and Mille Lacs reached out to us and said, hey, we've got this issue. We see you've been doing some stuff. How can we get involved? So with those two other great walleye fishery lakes combined with us, we started kind of moving into this more regional, statewide. I mean, it isn't even just a Minnesota issue. It's, even, North Dakota, Wisconsin, even Ontario, Manitoba, I mean, Lake Winnipeg and other areas, I mean, they're all starting to have issues similar to this. So once we got together, we said, well, I mean, it isn't just for our lakes, it's for all lakes. So we've started to kind of have other people approach us. We haven't really reached out yet to say, hey, let's get all the lakes involved. But we've started kind of this statewide effort where we're working with basically everybody and promoting this statewide, and that's part of the legislation. It's also part of some funding that we've got through the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to do some education and outreach to expand the message.
And it's important. I think you're absolutely right. It's gonna grow, and it's gonna keep growing, and it's not just a Minnesota thing or a Lake of the Woods thing. And maybe you'll see. I don't know. Have you heard of any other states having a similar type program that's popped up anywhere?
Not so much. I know there was a big push on Lake Tahoe to clean up the trash and stuff. I mean, I think it's an issue in other places, but yeah, I don't know of a surrogate in other areas. But
so we were kind of talking about how this new rule is going to affect people. And Dan, what did you say about just like setting beer on the ice?
Well, so if the rule reads right that you can't have any trash on the ice. When we go and stay in a wheelhouse, all three of us, we spend some nights together on the ice. We use the cold as kind of our refrigerator. In case beer goes out there, frozen pizzas, maybe in a grocery bag. And so I guess my question would be, and maybe we know the answer, maybe we don't, could that be interpreted by somebody as being garbage? Would we have to put it in a cooler? Would we have to bring it inside or leave it in our truck? Or I'd be curious to know what the ruling on that could end up being.
I think
that's a great question.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, go ahead, Mike. I'll let you answer.
Oh, yeah. No, I think, some of these things, the DNR are going to have to figure out how they're going to enforce some of the rules. But I think common sense kind of is at play as well. So I can't speak directly to that, but I know when the DNR will be working on how that comes out, and that's what we really want to message out to let other folks know how this is going to be interpreted and enforced. But the overall goal is to make sure that we're not leaving trash on the ice. If it's something you're going to be using, I think that's probably subjective a little bit, but yeah, that's just my opinion. But
is the case of beer still full? I think is the
but see if you remember this winter, I think it was around New Year's or whatever. Remember I went out, how many full beer cans and cases of beer did I find on our local lake? Remember that?
That's true. That were left behind though.
They were left behind, but even so, there's kind of the point, right? Okay, it's left behind, but we don't know who left it, so we can't enforce it. So if it's on the ice, should we just enforce it now before it's a problem? So it's an interesting thing to think about, and maybe the answer is just put it in a cooler. You're not going to leave your Yeti on the ice. On purpose,
or
at least.
Your truck, it's still cold back there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but most people aren't going to leave a case of beer on the ice either.
Well, you'd like to think that. You would think, but people are weird.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that if it was next to your fish house, that it's going to be considered part of your your gear that's there. And if you leave it behind, maybe that's the distinction. And can we just state too that on that same trip, one of the pizzas, I don't know if it didn't get left outside or not, but I remember somebody cooking it at, might have been a little late in the night, one of the nights. I remember before he put it in the oven, it was like folded in half.
That was in the back of the truck, and it was like 40 degrees that day on the ice, so it definitely
was in the back of your truck. Was that your pizza?
No, it was Tony's.
Tony's? Okay. I'm like, is it like it's thawed?
Yeah, that thing was definitely thawed.
How long has it been thawed out? Man. Well, and kind of along those same lines, like I'm shocked. Like that to me is common sense. Like if you leave a case of beer behind, whether it's empty cans or full cans, if it's sitting in the middle of the lake and you're long gone, halfway back to wherever you live, that's trash. And that is a finable offense.
Yes, but how do you fine it? How do you, it's too late to apply to give a fine to anybody,
that's the
right?
problem.
So
yeah, you'd almost have to watch them drive away and leave it there.
Back to the old rules.
Yeah, the enforcement's going to be tough. There's no question about it. But the biggest thing I think behind this is the education, like we talked about, like just to get people in the mindset of like, hey, have a plan ahead of time so this doesn't happen. And COs are going to be out there watching you to check licenses, to check lines in the water, whatever. I guarantee you they're going to be sitting in their truck Sunday afternoons. It's late Sunday morning, Sunday middays when people are packing up to leave to go back home from the weekend. They're going to be sitting at the landing with binoculars. They're going to be watching you as you pull away. And if you're leaving garbage behind, that's probably going to be the easiest way for them to do it. I'm sure they'll come up with some other methods too. Some of those guys are pretty sneaky. I'm sure they'll find a way to enforce it one way or another. But trash is one thing. Like, and there's nothing worse. Like, people that litter drive me crazy. Like people that throw their fast food bags out their truck windows, even their cigarette butts. If they're driving down the road and I see somebody throw a cigarette butt out the window, it just drives me bonkers.
Especially this time of year. It's a fire hazard right now. It's so dry.
Exactly. But just like if you're a smoker, have an ashtray in your car, or something you can put your cigarette butts in. It's gross.
Don't smoke.
Don't smoke. Yeah. But human waste, like, I get it. Some people might have in their brain, it's, you can go outside. Like I'm not going to lie. I've got some bare spots in my yard and it's not from the dogs.
What?
Let's just say. So people are, a lot of guys go to the bathroom outside, so I can see it, but leaving, especially your, I don't know, solid human waste. I don't know the best way to describe it.
Depends on if you eat that not frozen pizza or not.
It's not so solid anymore. Oh man. But wasn't the story last year or 2 years ago, someone was driving, I think they left Red Lake or something, and just driving down a gravel road somewhere and just opened up and just dumped their waste on the side of the road somewhere. Now, granted, that wasn't in the lake. That's still not a good place to be dumping your waste. Like, man, give me a break. Right. So what, as far as keep it clean efforts for human waste, what are you telling people out there, Mike?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It's sort of, the technology is newer than sort of regulation and amenities for folks to do things. So on Lake of the Woods, we actually have a 4-season dump station in town at Howard's Oil. And then they put in a new wastewater treatment facility out by the lake. So we were able to partner with one of the businesses to put in a 4-season dump station. So there are a couple places around Lake of the Woods where they can actually go and dump that waste in the wintertime. Statewide, there's not very many of those facilities available. So that makes it a little more difficult. But I know at Upper Red Lake, they were handing out red bags that you would do number 2 in, and when you came back in, they'd have a dumpster for you to put that in. So, so we're kind of working on things slowly. I know Upper Red Lake and working around here in other lakes, there's some holding tanks that you could put in as like a dump station, and then those could be pumped out later in the summer or whatever, so that you'd have a place to dump. So I mean, we've heard the horror stories and seen pictures on Lake of the Woods and Red where people have just opened up their septic and drove down the ice road and let it fly, and that's really not what we want to see happen, I mean, but I understand people, they don't want to keep it in there because they have to heat it, but it's not only the human waste, but the RV antifreeze and other chemicals that are going in there. So, best to just dispose of them properly is kind of our message.
Yeah, that's something else to think about. I mean, for those people thinking that they're just dumping their waste on, in the water, well, fish go to the bathroom in the lakes too. What's wrong? But when you start talking about antifreeze and other chemicals that might be involved with it too, that's a pollutant for the lakes. So where can people learn more? Like, say they've got a trip planned to Lake of the Woods or one of these other lakes that is participating with Keep It Clean. Where can they learn more about having a plan and what's next for Keep It Clean?
Yeah, keepitcleanmn.org is kind of the website that we have, and so that's really got the information of what to expect and what to do when you're going out on a lake for making a plan. Kind of our next steps is we're really working with other soil and water conservation districts around the state to see if this is something that they can support. Lake associations and other folks are really, really passionate about this type of work. So we really want to make sure that this message spreads and that folks really do the right thing and keep it clean.
Well, we're happy to donate. It's only $360 this year, but I know that's $360 more than what you had before. So we're happy to be able to help in any way possible. And of course, next year for the next SJR 500, we hope to have increased participation and raise that level because we'll do the donation again next year. Mike Hirst, Keep It Clean, Lake of the Woods County. Thanks for the time today on the show.
Thank you.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.